Good morning. Welcome back. The show is Who Am I? Who am I? And we're going to talk about this. It's like an oral meditation stream of consciousness for me. Hovering around a particular topic. We're going to see what kind of interesting things come out of it today. As always, we're not sure exactly what's going to be said. I know what my topic is. I know what my intention is. We'll see where I get with it. If you're a fan of the show, you might be delighted to know that there are a few changes going to be coming. I'm not sure exactly because it partly depends on another person and their schedule of which I have no control over. But hopefully within the next week or so, I can start offering up a little bit better of a product. As you know, I have not been focusing upon the technology of any of it, or the marketing, or the capitalization, or whatever. I haven't been focusing on any of that. I've just been focusing on getting my voice, finding my voice, finding what it is I want to say to humanity, just from my own side and my own way to be about it. That's what I've been working on, and I will continue to do that. But I'm going to, perhaps, the changes will start inviting a few more ears into the room. The whole point is not necessarily ears just yet. At some point, of course, I would like to have people hear me. But I just want to make sure I'm really clear about my own intentions. I really am not trying to start a religion, but I just quietly sitting over here on my side of the table, my side of the bench, my side of the room, I don't know what you want to call it. I see things that I think if humanity understood, it would be helpful. It would be so helpful. I would like to see us reach a future of joy and abundance and playful co-creation, peaceful cohabitation. And Abraham is helping me to realize that the way to come about this is to focus on what you want. Don't focus on what you've got where it isn't. I know that my people are not particularly wise. Don't seem to be. You can look around you and see all kinds of examples of misbehavior and worse. But I don't think that's who we are. I think that that's who we are being when we don't know who we are. And that's why I think that this show might be helpful. So who am I in reference to source energy? And then we're just going to riff about stuff. I'm sorry, I just pulled myself up short because I was still thinking about the changes and wondering to myself whether I should be voicing these changes. Voice the intention right out loud. Maybe it'll help it happen sooner. I'm going to get some help with the description of this video and then thumbnails and see whether we can't invite a few more of our people into the room. Our people being, I think that there is an enormous appetite for this kind of open-minded addition consciousness, seeing the world in a new way, in the way it really is, actually. There's a whole lot of people with this kind of new edgy sort of thought frame going on. I am not certainly the only blogger out there, the only spiritual blogger out there trying to say something profound in a new, fresh way here in the 21st century. I am not the only one. There is a tremendous appetite for this out there. I'm just another voice, and I'm just saying it in my own way, how I've added things up. Excuse me. I think that our better understanding of the question of who am I in reference to source energy will bring about two very profound maturations, developments, things that come to a place where we're going to be really happy to see this when we understand who we are in reference to source energy. One is we start being way more peaceful with each other, because we realize in a very deep core of our identification self, a place where we say to ourselves, who am I? And we answer that question. There's a place there where our plug is. It's a plug. It's not just a metaphorical plug. Somehow it's a literal one. It's where we are attaching to the outside world. This place where we answer the question, I am, and then you have the sense of who you are. And wherever your sense of who you are is, that's kind of where your plug is plugged in. And is it attached to the form? And then actually, when we attach in any way to the form, that's when we start getting nervous about change. Because we've attached it to a place where now it kind of needs to stay the same or we get uncomfortable. So what is this plug I'm talking about? It's the who am I. It's the I am. It's really, really important. This identity sense. When you plug it into, so where are you supposed to plug it into? If you can't plug it into anywhere where there's any form, isn't that everything? No. It's actually only like half of it, or only one aspect of it. There's another place you can plug it in, and that's the formless. Did you know you had a self that was formless? You have a self that's in the form. That's your physical body self. Did you know that you have a self that is deeply grounded in the formless aspect of this universe? It is Planck's, ready to be anything. And how does it work? How does the matrix, how does the rolling manifestation manifest? How does the form come into being? Well, that's a lot of what we're talking about. We're going to bring in a lot of big concepts. One of the big concepts I'm going to bring in right now is this concept. Whoop, that's the full abstract. This is just the title. The Origin of Mass and Nature of Gravity paper. This paper was published back in September, and on my description of my video, and this is one of the new things that will be coming up in the next week or two, I've got to get my tech assistant, who is my daughter, and she lives on the other side of town, and she's got her own busy life, and I don't blame her for that. She's my techie person, going to help me. Plus, I could maybe go over to YouTube and try to figure it out myself, but I got to figure out how to embed these clips, these links to other YouTube videos right into my video somewhere. Either put them all at the end or embed them as I go, as I say them. So like right here, I could have, here's a link to this, and then there's a link, and you can go, you can leap over to this and look at the whole paper. This paper, mathematically and in physics, although in an unconventional way, and so I'm not sure, this paper has been published, and it's not like any mathematicians or physicists are leaping to disprove it. You know, actually, the nomenclature, the language is so Anyway, supposedly, this is what this paper does. And it seems right to me because I have input the form, the general form of what Nassim Haramein is saying about the nature of the shape of the universe, you know, the black hole structure all the way up, the holographic nature, the jiggling space-time, the fullness of space, the spinning of space, how that's where all the forces are coming from, is that spin is baked into the cake, that you can't have any of it without spin. Spin is actually all you're seeing. All of the vast complexity of appearance of the nature of physical reality, it's all coming from one phenomenon, and that phenomenon is the Planck field spinning. And the mathematics of that and how that explains gravitational forces, which is going to help us get to our true 21st century selves. The one that was kind of taken from us, but we let it be taken through our ignorance, through our lack of understanding of who we are. We allowed that last century to be stolen from us. But we need to take ownership and possession of the 21st and 22nd centuries and beyond. We need a better energy source than fossil fuel. And our understanding of ourselves, the universe, and source energy is going to bring that to us. There is as much energy as we want or need anywhere. We do not have to dig it up out of the ground, refine it, pipe it through pipelines, across thousands of miles, across sacred aquifers, down to beautiful living gulfs, refineries to be put onto barges and then sent across heaving seas to foreign markets. We do not have to live that way. But the only way we're ever going to live any other way is we're going to have to understand who we are. And the who we are about it is we put all this stuff right into the center of your sense of identity. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Am I an asshole who's going to just kill the planet and cause murderous suffering wherever I go? Is that who I am? I don't actually think so. I think human beings are this marvelous complexity. We're so marvelous. We need to focus on marvelous. We need to focus on our capabilities. We need to assume that what we want is what's right. What we want is life. What we want is love. What we want is joyous co-creation with all the colors and all the traditions and all the ideas. It's a tremendous cooperative effort, and the only way that we are going to organize ourselves successfully into the next whatever excuse me, it's my morning toad. Gets into my voice. I'm so sorry. The only way we're ever going to do this is by allowing Source to organize us. But we're going to have to understand who Source is and who we are in order for that to happen. So that's what this conversation is about. So right here, when I get my better technology, right here perhaps is where I give you the link to this paper. And then immediately after, at the same time, the link to this paper and the YouTube video describing this paper. 37-minute YouTube video. Very cool. That'll be coming. Like I said, it's partly up to somebody else's schedule, and I have yet to figure out how to force others. And actually, I don't think that we should be forcing others. We should be allowing others and educating others to tune themselves into this heartbeat. It's like this, it's a source of impulse, is what it is. And when you tune into it, it's a frequency. You can feel it in your heart. How you feel it is when you have accurately linked your head and your heart together. Your thinking mind, your physical mind, your physical brain, your brain who has all the ideas about what reality is. Your thinking brain and your beating heart. When you put them together, you get this fuller, blossoming sense of who we are, and that there's work to be done, but, only inspired work will do. If you are not inspired to it from your source side, from your desire, from your excitement, your enthusiasm, what you want to do, what you feel called to do. Not all of them shoulds, not all those shoulds and ought tos and not those impulses. Now, there are some places where the shoulds and the want tos, they coincide. Actually, this would be alignment. You'd call that alignment. You'd call that alignment between your two selves. If it was something that you should do and it was something that you wanted to do at the same time, I'd call that alignment. And that's all you're looking for. You're looking for your own all clear message from within. The one that says, I'm not contradicting you anymore. There's not parts of you inside that want to and other parts of you that don't want to. You're used to this village of people inside of you, and some of them agreeing and some of them disagreeing. How about you get to that point in your vision where everything that you're doing, all the villagers agree on, even the grumpy ones. They're sort of grudgingly saying, well, I really don't like anything, but I guess that's okay. You aren't fighting yourself anymore. You aren't crossing your own energy stream. You aren't wanting it, but you aren't liking it, but you aren't doing it, but you're all in. What does that look like? That's part of what we're aiming for. That would be if your two selves, this is the famous picture of the two selves, that would be if your two selves were agreeing with one another. You're all excited and interested in whatever it is you're doing and wanting to do it because you think it's interesting. You're called to it, either through whatever your interest is. Now, part of my interest has been driven all my life from this background sense of reality and what we need to be doing in order to survive another century. I've always been called to thinking about the really big stuff like the Holocaust, for crying out loud. That's a big important thing. We need to understand that pattern from an abstract, matter-of-fact, clearly none of us want that. I think if even the Nazis themselves, even the ones that, came to justice, if they had been capable of fully facing the actual reality of how their little experiment turned out. Now, I would think that in order to maintain any level of functional sanity, you would have to shield yourself from a great deal of that. But as soon as they crossed over into non-physical, as soon as they passed out of their physical bodies, they would have recognized exactly what that was. And their true selves was not that evil, was not the evil aspect of themselves. Now, of course, that configuration, I'm not arguing that Nazis are evil. They are. However, they are also human beings, and there is always this eternal beacon, this nugget of eternal goodness within all of us. And I don't care how bad you are. You know, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Well, a century has gone by, and many of us have recognized the pattern that happened last century in all kinds of different ways. Do we recognize it? From Paul Levy and his recognition of the Wetiko mind virus in the quantum field. Go look at his work. It's actually quite interesting, the stuff that he, my whole thing, I think, is I come from a place of addition consciousness. So I am not in a place where I take ideas and I evaluate them and I'm like, well, is it this way or is it this way? Is it this idea or is it that idea? And I'm like, well, okay, if it's a yes, then I'm going to take that one. If it's no, then I'm going to throw that one away. I'm going to subtract that one. In actual fact, they all apply. Every idea, everything is telling you a truth, even if the thing that it's telling you, even if it's the person themselves is standing there spewing words to you that are a lie. The whole scene is telling you a truth. The truth is there is a person standing in front of you passionately, for some reason, believing and seeing and saying XYZ, and it's revealing something to you. Everything reveals truth. Even the lies reveal truth. Even if you're seeing 180 degrees the opposite of something, you're seeing the positive and negative aspects of this crystal of so I'm off on a little tangent, obviously. If you're a fan of the show, you'll recognize the tangent. Anyway, who are we? I believe that in focusing on the nature of the universe and how it works, and then by using our nature, the really cool aspect of our nature, how we are capable of singing to the quantum field with our emotions. And somebody gave us that. I think that's the fact that it did that is, I think, a piece of evidence that it was done intentionally. You know, the fact that we are capable, our emotions sing to the quantum field. We sing to the universe, and it responds back to us in the frequency that we put out. So, if we put out... How do you see the universe? Do you see it as a dark, wicked, and ugly place? You probably see it as a mixed bag. But whatever your reasons for the way you think that it is, you might think that it's just this eternal struggle between God and the devil. I don't know. Who am I? It's a good question. It's a very good question. Who am I? Well, I think we're very capable of getting through all of our problems. We just need to focus on the world that we want. not the world that we've got. I understand that we have something somewhat different than the world I'm trying to describe. I understand that the reality, I'm air quoting, the reality of what we've got is somewhat different than what we're aiming for. As long as we are still living in a world where poverty abounds, where the sixth mass extinction is still underway, we cannot make the wars go away for good and for all. What's that all about? Can we stop the barbarity already? Please. The reason that we keep fighting the wars is because we imagine that there is a scarcity of well, what's the word? Words like energy and goods and services, stuff like that, commodities. We think that there's a scarcity there's a lack of what people need. Well, there's plenty of space for people to exist, so that's not really the problem. But spaces that are adequately climate controlled, that starts being more of a problem. And then so you have homeless people who don't have adequate shelter. Well, one of the reasons why they don't have adequate shelter is because of the way we produce shelter. We have to munch up the trees, and we have to put the wires through the walls, and we have to contract this, and we have to involve all the people and all the laws and all the whatever. And actually, we don't have to do any of it this way. And we probably don't have to do all of it with an incredible bureaucracy of having to plow through the say-so of all of mankind in a physical way. We probably don't have to do any of that. But that's what we got going on right now. But we could easily make... So what the problem is the energy. The energy is the problem. So let's just cut right to the chase. The energy is the problem, and we need an influx of energy into the system. Now, the first way to do this, you got to raise the consciousness of humanity to understand that this is possible. And then you call for a nationwide contest, a national contest. And the Patent Office is going to have nothing to do with this, because at the end of this, and national security is going to have nothing to do with this, because how dare you say that it's nationally secure for you to stomp on ideas of devices that would belch out just gentle, clean, free quantities of energy to all of us. How dare you say that that's going to harm the national security, when what we've got instead is this incredibly vulnerable grid. We have this incredibly toxic energy system, fossil fuels, it is just so belching out its poisons onto Mother Earth. It is just not acceptable that it keeps going. And it's also not necessary, so let's just stop it. And all of the big grand ways that we do it instead, not necessary. Let's go back to the Tesla Tower kinds of ideas. But so the national contest is for over unity devices. Absolutely anybody who has one or can come up with one that, when set into motion, it's not a perpetual motion machine. It's not that. But there's been all kinds of great ideas about how to produce this. And at this point in the video, that's where I would direct you to. And if I had the capability of embedding it right into the video right here, this is where I would tell you to go watch The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It, because I'm claiming that over unity devices are possible. There's another couple of them. I can't remember what was on the first movie, but on the second movie, on the Thrive 2 movie, there was a guy from Africa who had invented this machine about the size of gas pump. Stood about, it was that kind of shape too, rectangle, stood above the ground, about that size, little higher than about the height of a human being, 6 foot tall, something like that. Put out enough energy to run about 300 houses. So anybody who has any idea for that kind of energy output, anything that puts, and if it rises to a certain level, then give them $1 million. You give us a blueprint, or you give us a working device, and then you throw open a fair for these things. Not only that, but any device that's submitted and accepted by the contest, the design of it goes open source up on the internet, and anybody can recreate it. We would have an influx of energy into the whole global system so quickly. It would be a great idea. That's a great, great, great idea. But instead, we all just slog on, imagining that we have to do it the way that we're doing it. And isn't it shitty? And there's no way to do it any other way. Well, I think there is. I think there is. So that's my first thing. I think that would be a game changer. It would allow all human beings to just be okay without having to monetize quite the same way that we have to now. Why do all the beautiful ecosystems all around the world, why are they forced to grind their truffula trees into thneeds in order to tap into the supply chain, the supply chain, the energy, the bloodstream of humanity, the circulatory system of humanity, that supply chain of energy, goods, and services. That we put everything from foodstuffs to technologies to energy units to building supplies to all of that. That's the human supply chain. And everyone is forced to do something, to put up something on that human supply chain. And I'll tell you, the best thing that we have to put up there is our own humanity. Actually, that's kind of what I'm doing now. I have no success to point at. My only success is I have some darling, wonderful, faithful fan of whom I adore. I don't know who you are. I don't know if you're someone that I know in my physical real life, or if you are someone who has found me somehow through. I'm not sure exactly who you are. And I don't really... I keep looking for comments. I think I have my system set up so that if somebody would comment on anything, I would be alerted to it. I got alerted once. Somebody said, "Welcome back," when I came back from New Zealand, and maybe it was you. I don't know. I'm going to try to invite more people into the room. I haven't been ready because I just didn't really know what I was saying, and I didn't really know how to say it. And I still don't really know, but I there's a process in motion now, and we're just going to let it play out on the air, on this show. The question is, who am I? And it seems like a very appropriate way to let this unfold. Anyway, so let's go to this. This is my famous slide. I always show this one. This is the neocortex. This is that aspect of humanity that makes us human. It is our overview mind. You can think of it that way. And that's how come it is the analogy... What do I want to say? I don't know. I need to do what I'm inspired to say. Not just come back into the room and say, Well, let's see. This is where I start. And let's see, I gotta circle around and say, I want to say it all new and different every time. But I don't want to leave behind any newcomers because I am going to be inviting new people into the room. And so I'm going to have to start back at the beginning. You know, who am I? I am a binary system. I am a binary system. And the system consists of a physical self and a purely vibrational aspect that is not bound by any of the physical. And because that is so, that non-physical aspect of you can't be hurt by any of the bumps and grinds that you experience that in your physical life. Your purely vibrational self has no resistance about any of it. It's impossible to have any resistance because it's just echoing, reverberating, vibrations, feeling, all of it's not. It can't have any resistance because of its nature. You know, it's just reverberating. So that aspect of you, totally safe, totally eternal also, and keeping track of all things real. And there is a continuum of reality. You can tell that, but you walk into a natural history museum and go to the timelines, and you'll see that there is a continuum going on in the real field around us, and we are a part of this. And so, why was that important for me to say it that way? Well, you're real. I know that sometimes in the human consciousness we can get a little crazy and it's hard to know what's real. But there is a real aspect to everything. Know that there is a continuum of reality, a continuum of desire, a continuum of evolution, expansion, and there are Abraham has helped me to understand how the evolution, the expansion part of it, what's driving it is that your inner being, when you have a desire, spoken or unspoken, consciously realized or not, if you are hungry, you have launched a rocket of desire for more abundance. And the universe hears it. It hears all of it and responds to that desire with an expansion of what was asked for. That's how come natural ecosystems, whether you think they're harsh or rough, or whether you think they are kind or cruel, they are abundant. The jungle is abundant. And maybe there is a cacophony of everyone's desires, and then there's this symphony, and everyone thrown into motion about it, trying to hold on to their own avatar and seek this. So I'm not saying that life is candy coated or cotton coated is the wrong word here. I'm trying to feel that sense of it can be harsh. It absolutely can be harsh. But you have to step back to the whole dang thing, because you are the whole thing. You are not just yourself. You are the whole universe. The whole universe is everywhere. Everything is the whole universe. And so you might say, well, that's a snooze. That doesn't mean I'm special. No, it means you really are special. You really, 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 really are special. And hold on one second. I'm going to do something and it's going to make a loud noise. So who am I? And where are we going? Well, I'll tell you where I think we're going. I think that the object of the exercise, and this is very important, getting clear in your own consciousness about the object of the exercise is a very important part of this. Because depending on what you think the object of the exercise is and how passionately you have locked in to that assumption, that's going to drive your machinery, and it's going to be interesting how that plays out. So what is the object of the exercise? Do you think that the object of the exercise is eternal conflict and struggle? And because Hitler thought that. Hitler believed that eternally being at war with your neighbors was kind of necessary to the equation. You had to be, either conquering everybody or standing in that position of having conquered everybody. You had to be doing that, and fighting against the next person who was going to come in and try to conquer you. And it was this eternal struggle of conquer or be conquered. And no wonder he was so hard to get along with as a neighbor. You can't have that as the object of the exercise. That is not what it is. That is absolutely in conflict with the natural order of the day, of the world. It absolutely is. Competition happens at the bottom, but at the top, it's all cooperation. It's all symphonic, harmonic, synchronistic, inspired, blessed, coherent, organized, inspired, cooperation and coordination, not competition. That's what it is. So, who am I? Who am I? Well, I am a cell in this vast superorganism that we are as humanity. And what is the object of the exercise? The object of the exercise, I think, is that we achieve sustainability. And then we continue into the future doing the things that humanity enjoys doing. That's the object of the exercise. Refined abundance. Let's flip this sixth mass extinction shit. Let's turn it around. Let's flip it around and let's start going the other direction. Let's start creating diversity. Let's start encouraging diversity in the system. And we don't have to go into the laboratory and, as human beings, us with our physical minds intentionally create every one of the... It's not like that. There is a system of abundance creation at work in the field all around us. We just need to co-create with nature, like permaculture kind of stuff. That kind of philosophy of a kind of culture and outlook that works with the surrounding principles of nature to re-establish threads of the biofield, but not do it artificially as human beings so often do things. We start moving species around the planet, and we start genetically modifying things, and we start intentionally poking our shit into this and that, and we do more harm than good. How would we do it correctly? Well, it would have to be inspired from the loving heart. You would have to feel it. your mind and your heart would have to sing in this kind of green light sort of way. And those around you would feel the same excitement. You know when it feels good, when you go into a nature preserve where someone has done it correctly. You know what that feels like. It feels good. When it doesn't feel right, that's when we know that we're off. And that's the secret to the whole thing. Our feelings are vibrationally sensing the world around us in reality. Our emotions are not illogical, as Mr. Spock would have had us believe. They are not. It's not that they are illogical. It's that they are misunderstood. Our emotions are actually telling us whether, if you're having a negative emotion, your negative self, in a way, could be seen as illogical. Your negative self is you flipped backwards. When you are in your negative self and you are no longer in a position where you are facing what you want, for a moment you are facing what you don't want. And so if you start moving from that position, you will be moving in the direction of what you do not want. So don't move when you're in your negative self. Just know that you have gotten your system sort of twirled around. You've gotten yourself backwards. And you need to get yourself turned back to the forward, and then you can start acting. There's nothing wrong with you. You have done nothing wrong. This is your design. And how can you learn to get better and better at that? Get really intolerant of negative emotion. Do not tolerate negative emotion within you, because it is the beginning of you have just deviated from the guidance of your inner spirit, from your negative self. That very first whisper of discomfort, it is your indication that you are deviating. And it is best that you get no momentum going in the opposite direction of what you want. If your intention is to, say the object of the exercise is to achieve sustainability, okay, that's big long term for all of us. Okay, got that. I can't be responsible for all of our sustainability. So I can't focus on that necessarily, but I can hold it as a pure intention that I would like to achieve sustainability, because 8 billion souls on a trajectory of extinction is going to be a very ugly story, a really, really horrible docudrama. We don't want to do that. We do not want to go extinct at 8 billion people. That would be just dreadful. So, the object of the exercise for us all is sustainability, but what is the object of the exercise for me individually? Is it he who dies with the most toys? Is it the object of the exercise knowledge and understanding of who I am in this world and what life is all about? And then upon achieving that information little by little, that understanding fuller and fuller, you address your life and find experience. You know, is that the object of the exercise? Is it to conquer your neighbors? Is it to be, popular? Is the object of the exercise to make my parents proud of me finally? Is the object of the exercise to find my own happiness, to discover who I am and what lights my fire, to find where my fire is lit and live from that point? Is that the object of the exercise? Is it to be into service unto the Lord for all of my days Amen. Amen. I don't know. How do you see it? What is it how have you translated it? I think it needs to be in alignment with how your inner being sees it. Because your inner being is actually an aspect of you without resistance, vibrationally in touch with all of everything. And so why would I argue with the aspect of me that knows things when I am the aspect of me that doesn't know things? Why would I argue with? So you need to be in alignment with your inner being. You need to be in accord with the vibrational wisdom of your higher self. It's giving you good information about the real world around you. And you don't have to get oogie about it, or you can just be matter of fact about it. You can be normal about it. You can know that the mathematics supports the universe supporting you. The mathematics supports this idea that it really is holographic. It really is. And when you understand that it's holographic, that means you have the whole universe truly inside of you, all around you. In every moment, you are the universe. And so that supports any of your grandiose ideas, so this might be a national security issue when people actually realize how big they really are, and that you can be a lot bigger than you've been being. But the idea is for all of us to be big. There's a way that all of us can be big, huge, vast, without stomping on the world around us. You can be gentle and flow through your life, through your space, without causing enormous ripples of, whatever. Any kind of effect I want to have on the field around me, I want it to be coherence, not chaos. I don't want to be a big storm of chaos blowing through. That's what Hitler was. Did you see the aftermath of that enormous storm of chaos that he was at the center of? And it's because he was in absolute dichomatic opposition to his internal self. His two selves were in absolute he was almost the antithesis of alignment. He was locked into absolute misalignment. And that is the lesson here. The banality of this evil, and how this simple act of crossing your own energy stream, creating the negative self, believing it, and then letting that negative self drive your physical vehicle, that is enough to invite the devil into this world. Isn't that the funniest thing you have ever heard? It is just as matter of fact as that. And we need to start understanding this. We need to start understanding that our own behavior is what is causing the patterns of chaos that we don't like, the ones that we don't want. It's believing our negative self to be our real self and then acting from it, instead of understanding who we really are, knowing that who we really are is this positive, pure vibrational being that is coming from forever and going to always. We are a continuum of energy and light and desire and collaborative, cooperative co-creation in a field much bigger than just the little one that contains our body. That's who you really are. Just know that. Just know that. Now, knowing that, so you're knowing that, but you're still in a physical body, faced with a physical life. That physical body has needs. If it wants to continue from today till tomorrow to the next day, it has needs. And those needs, there are 7 of them, and in the order of them, that if you didn't have them, you would cease to be physically. They are air, water, sleep, food, shelter, relationship, and expression. And if you could get your desires, first of all, into order. Now, all of those, actually, I wouldn't, with my physical mind, put those in order exactly, even though I just did that. Because your actions don't want to be governed by the physical mind. You want your actions to be governed by your inspiration, your inspired mind. Your physical mind can be involved as long as it is being inspired by your broader self. You be in accord. Don't be in opposition. Have your thinking mind agree with your inspired mind. Find a way to agree. You absolutely can. You are your greater self. That other self that you are, you can start letting go of your identity to it. That negative self isn't really you. It's a function of your equipment. It's a function of you getting backwards to yourself. Just know that, and then don't judge yourself, and then get better at facing forwards, and get better at not acting when you're facing backwards. Sit on your hands, work your way through the emotion, think your way through it, find your way to the other side of it, and when you find your sunny side again, because that's who you really are, you really aren't a dark person, you are a light person, and you know that. Quit being your dark person. Quit thinking that reality around you is dictating your negative self. You look at something that you observe something in the field around you that hits you the wrong way. And somehow you've identified with it. It's part of you. It's part of your world. It's actually real. It's reality. I must focus on that. And until that condition changes, I am not allowed to feel good. Otherwise, I'm not in touch with reality. Isn't that weird that we think that way? Where do I want to rest? I like this picture. This guy is looking 2 different directions, but he seems to be smiling about it. I'm not sure if that really is a smile. It sort of gives him a pleasantness of personality appearance, doesn't it? This little chameleon guy I've got showing right now. So who am I, and what is the effect of having these 2 selves? These 2 aspects of yourself that you truly are all the time. You are this vibrational, much greater aspect. It's an aspect of you, it's cosmological. This cosmic vibrational aspect of your self is, it's who you really are. And the other one is the one that, what do I need to say that I've never said before? It's a good question. Who am I, and how do I understand myself? And how does that understanding of myself help me live a better life. Help me find my pathway to my dreams come true, my happily ever after, my better relationships with the beings around me, my better ability to care for myself in physicality, to feed myself and shelter myself, because I need these things. I need clean air, which actually our collective behavior is somewhat threatening that. And our use of fossil fuels, our burning of fossil fuels, we don't need to do it. The first thing we're going to do is incrementally open up way more energy sources and open up the consciousness of humanity to understand that we do not any longer have to burn fossil fuels and nothing but burn fossil fuels. We don't have to do that anymore, and we do not have to keep building more and more intense infrastructure along this line so that it becomes completely and utterly impractical to ever do anything else. We don't have to do that anymore. We don't have to do that anymore. We can understand that other energy sources are open to us, are available to us. The first one is just this idea of understanding over unity devices and understand the job that our own patent office has been doing for the last 100 years to keep really good ideas away from us. And do we still want to allow that to happen? Do we still want to allow that? I can almost understand why it was. Because I can understand the new can of worms that we're going to open up as soon as we allow all the energy that there is to flow everywhere. Everyone is going to have all the energy they need to do whatever they want to themselves, each other, ourselves, the world. And what's that going to look like? Well, we need to kind of straighten up. We need to understand who we really are. Or that possibly could be dangerous. So the first thing is the general, our understanding of what our patent office has done to us and what our national security situation has done to our energy supply and our material infrastructure as it relates to all of that, our transportation systems and all of that. Everything's going to change. Conquering gravity, you can just understand that conquering gravity is going to make jets flying through the air the way they fly through the air now, and using the fuel the way that they use it now, and the way they have to land in airports and then refuel and run. That whole thing is going to change as soon as we as a whole understand that gravity has been conquered, or the understanding of gravity has been understood. That was a redundancy, I'm sorry. Gravity has been understood mathematically, and the groundwork has been laid for the technology to follow. That's what's happened. The technology is not there yet. Right, it's true. If we would collectively put more of our minds on this physics and this understanding of ourselves and source and energy and gravity and all of that, if we would do that, then we would see the change in my lifetime, and I'm not that young. So I only have maybe 30, 35 years left. I figure I'm going to make it to 100. 35, 40, I don't know. I've promised some people 120, so that's getting closer to, 60 more years. I don't know. It all depends. If I see my people moving and I see my voice having any sort of effect, then I will feel my own purpose very strongly, and I might live past a century. We'll see. In any case, my girls aren't ready to let me go, because I'm actually turning out to be a fairly good life coach. So what would I have to say about coaching you in your life? So this is I like this slide. It needs to be a better slide. But let's talk about what it's saying. The 4 general states of being. And the reason we're going to look at these is because this illustrates to me your accelerator and your brakes in a cosmic, my light being moving through time sort of way. And the idea is when you go specific, when you get specific about details, you want to be in a positive state, because whenever you go specific, you are putting on the gas. Specific is your accelerator. So if you are in a negative state of any sort, don't go specific. Don't get more and more specific about whatever thing it is that you were looking at in a negative way. Don't get more and more specific, because the momentum will just run away with you at that level. You want to pull back from the specific into the general when you are at a negative state. Go from your specific negative to the general negative, and then you can try to pivot to a general positive and then get to the specific positive. I could line this picture up differently. I was kind of showing the flow. If you're in a negative, pull back from the specific into the general, and then pivot to the general positive. And once you've anchored yourself into a positive state of being, it's like, okay, the world still sucks, but I'm okay. And now I can actually look at this from some more helpful direction. Now get specific. That's kind of the general idea with that. So, where else do we want to go? I haven't pulled this one up yet. The emotional guidance scale. This tells you where you are on this scale will let you know how you are doing, vibrationally speaking, as far as blending your two selves goes. If you are blending well, then you are in some state of positive emotion. Because if you can't be blending well and be in a negative state, because your higher self is never in a negative state. Who you really are is never, ever negative. Your negative self is a function of your human body. It's a function of your human biotechnological system given to you by some extraterrestrial some 200,000 years ago in a freaking genetic modification. I really truly believe that. Now, if it wasn't that, it just adds up to so many things. There's so many things that adds up, that I just think it really is. If you're having a hard time buying the extraterrestrial component, I don't think that is going to last forever. I think that it's very possible that within the next few years we are going to have a major, undeniable extraterrestrial visitation event. And at that time, the idea that somebody visited us 200,000 years ago and did a little genetic remod on us may not seem so wild and wacky. Here's my reasoning. Part of my reasoning is just it all adds up. Is why everything from all of the ruins on display everywhere around the planet, all of the difficult to explain architecture all over the planet, as well as our nature that doesn't easily blend itself to us finding our way just naturally. There's something about us that makes us have to do it consciously, which is kind of weird. It's like we didn't evolve incrementally over eons and eons and eons of time. I mean, we did to a point, but then somebody gave us a little evolutionary jump, a little leap, a little boost. See, human chromosome number 2, largely responsible for the size of the neocortex. It's definitely in the mix as far as what it is that makes us uniquely human, our neocortex, and a lot of that neocortex comes from human chromosome number 2, a fused chromosome, relic of an ancient telomere-to-telomere fusion, and marks the point at which 2 ancestral ape chromosomes fused to give rise to human chromosome number 2. What am I looking at? I'm looking at this is an article over at pnas.org, the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. Geneticists published this 33 years ago, and it has not been refuted. Now, they are not saying, and extraterrestrials did this. I mean, for all they know, this could have just happened naturally. I don't know how, These 2 chromosomes just fell on each other, and they just fused in this particular way that created the human neocortex, which creates human emotion, which creates the human mind, which creates both all of the wild capacity for imagination and creating of more. It made us who we are. And who are we? It's a good question, isn't it? Who am I? Who am I? Who are we? Where did we come from? Where are we going? How do we get there? I'll tell you where we're going. We're going ultimately to sustainability, or at least that's where I want to go to. And I don't want to sit here with a pro and con kind of looking at it like, well, are we going to sustainability or are we going to extinction? That kind of thinking will make you crazy. That kind of thinking is the way to not get a good momentum going. Just sitting there objectively with the question of, are we or are we not? Are we or are we not? Well, just focus on what you want. Focus on what you want. Well, what I want is sustainability. And so I'm focusing on it, and I do it for an hour and a half to 2 hours every single day. It's my little oral meditation, my Who Am I meditation. As I get clearer and clearer about what it is I want humanity to make it. I want the 6th mass extinction to cease and desist. I want us to get peaceful and playful and joyful and abundant on planet Earth. I want us no longer to squabble over scarcer, what we imagine is a finite pie, and instead go get about the business of expanding that infinite potential pie. Make more and more and more and more pie until we all have pie for us all, and there's enough pie for everyone, and the whole world is alive again. That's what I want. I want people doing what people want to do. People are wonderful. People are wonderful. I'll tell you what people want to do. They want to circulate around the planet. They want to visit one another. They want to eat one another's food, and they want to play in one another's playgrounds. They want to stay in one another's Airbnbs for, stay in each other's homes, and they want to visit one another on each other's golf courses, and they want to sail with one another upon each other's seas. That's what we want to do. Now, there's a lot of business that we have to take care of in order to keep all the systems running. Now, we are trying to create things that would help us do that. But at the same time, we're so resistant in our fearful places that we try to bat it all away. I'm talking about things like AI and automation. We want AI and automation. And if we knew who we were, we wouldn't have a problem with AI and automation. But instead, we've got our eyes so furiously locked upon the, I'm air quoting again, the reality of what we don't like and what we've got that we don't want. You know, we're so locked onto that then we get really resistant to these fabulous ideas that are meant to free us. But each and every one of us in our own individual way, nobody else can do this for you. You've got to keep your own eyes locked on what you want. Yes, acknowledge where we are. That's the spring. That's the jumping off place. That's the launching place to where we're heading from here to where we're going that we want, right? But don't keep focused on where we are. Just kind of keep that sort of loose, you know? It's sort of like when you're driving your car. You have to keep your eye on the road, but you aren't staring in minute detail every grain and bit of gravel on every specific piece of, if you were looking that specifically, you'd have to slow way down so that you were at a crawl with the windshield down in the floorboard so that you could very clearly only look at where you are instead of keeping your eyes up and forward to where you're going. You know, as you're flying down the highway, you may be in Arizona, but your mind, your eyes, so there's all kinds of levels to this, isn't there? You're looking at the road right in front of you. You're looking right where you are. You're looking, however many 100 yards ahead of you. Your mind is also knows that you're headed for New York or whatever. All these levels, right? Well, that's the same way you are. That's the same way we are. Where are we going? Well, I want to have fun. I know that fun and our desires, our joyful, playful, inspired desires are the engine that keep us running, And it's as it should be. But if we were in alignment, if our desires were in alignment and not just selfishly, in alignment with the field around us, at least in a cooperative and so much to think about, isn't it? So much to think about. And yet, ultimately, you don't really have to think about all of this. It all depends. If you want to engage your physical mind, it's best when it is not in misalignment with what your broader self knows to be true. If you're going to engage your physical mind, do it correctly. Otherwise, don't engage your physical mind and just follow the way you feel. Follow your positive emotions. If it feels good, feel it. And I'm not talking sensually necessarily. I'm talking about emotionally. I'm talking about your thoughts, how your thoughts resonate or do not resonate with what your higher being knows to be true. I would stay in alignment with my higher being because she's the one who's actually in touch, literally in touch with the field. All those little quanta, all those little plonks, they are jiggling together. They are touching one another. They are exchanging their information. They are exchanging their energy and their information across all the scales, and you are right there in the middle of that. Your consciousness is right there in the middle of that. I wish I could physically describe to you what your consciousness looks like. I know that your consciousness very much relates to this picture that I keep showing you. But there's more to it than that, I am sure. The seat, so you spend a lot of your time imagining the physical world outside of you, and you think that you are accurately representing it within your own mind. It's likely that you are not. And especially, as a matter of fact, I guarantee that you are not, unless you have lined these two aspects of yourself up with one another. So if you have any tendency to be negative ever, you are not in alignment. You have not lined these two selves up, and your view of the outside world is inaccurate. Inaccurate. Hitler's view, although he may have studied this factoid and that factoid and, this picture and that picture and this whatever, his view was out of alignment. And so it was, he couldn't trust what he was thinking. Even though to him, it looked like it was so clear. That's the thing. Wetiko believes that it is clear-sighted when it is actually a psychic blindness. You are misseeing the world. That negative mind is so sure it's right. And it does not want you to let go of it. It tries to make you believe that it is necessary for you to hold on to that negative self, that negative self is serving you. It's helping to keep you safe in this world. It's actually not. It's not. And you can let it go. You do not have to hold on to your negative self. And whenever you feel that negative self come on, you can release it. You can release it and reach for a better feeling thought. You are actually designed to feel good. You are okay. It is not nearly as serious as you think that it is. You are at this for eternity. You don't just have one shot. It's not one and done, and then you're forever either, eternally now you are non-physical and singing with the angels. You had that one shot. That one life you had, and that's it. It's not like that. You can come into a body forever and ever and ever, and that the body that you come into can get better and better. We are all evolving. We are... Who am I? Such a good question. And where am I going? And where did I come from? And how do I get where I want to be? I claim that this is a vibrational universe, and that we are vibrational beings in a vibrational universe. I have not given you the steps of creation today. This is the general states of vibrational creation. Step 1, life causes you to ask for more. More becomes identified as you live your life. What would be better becomes identified through the living of life. And Source marks all of the asked for more and stays there in a vibrational aspect until physical reality catches up to it. It's kind of how that goes. So the more that we have asked for, like Abraham says, it's done. It's done. It's vibrationally there. And now the universe is just catching up. It's like that vibrational blueprint goes out ahead. And then the whole rest of the universe just sort of follows impulses to catch up to where Source is leading the way. Ask and it is given. It is a done deal. But as human beings, our naturally resistant nature, or our naturally resistant capability, we have this, our nature is to be capable of this resistance. And I think that what really causes resistance is a traumatized human psyche gets quite resistant and will not flow with source energy as easily. And that causes all kinds of bumps and problems on the human trail. And then we turn around and call these bumps and problems things like the devil, or I don't know. It's us not understanding how the energies flow and how to flow with these energies and who and what part of these energies we really are. I know that I am the loving ones, and I feel now that the negative ones are a function of me misunderstanding my own equipment and not flowing with the reason that we are the love aspect is because that's the whole universe. The whole universe is over there on that side. The whole non-physical, everything, all of consciousness, all of intention, all of everything. It's all over there. And it couldn't be anything but love. It's not like there's a whole army of evil on the other side of the universe actively against all of the love. It's not like that. The land of the devil is actually very, very small compared to the land of God. God occupies all of the universe, and the devil is just this little place in the human mind where you can go and leave your knowledge of the whole universe and how it is love and all that, how you can leave that behind. That's all the devil is that place in the human mind where we can go, where we leave our source behind. And I say that that's all it is. It's profound enough. It creates holocausts. It can go all the way that far. It murdered 200 million human beings last century. It's bad enough. But it isn't truly a real source of evil. That source of evil is actually the source of good twirled backwards and completely misunderstood, then acted out of, then we get what looks like evil. But understand what it really is. It really is okay. It's like that Star Trek episode, the one, it's called Shore Leave, and it's first season, original series Star Trek, episode 16, I believe. It's called Shore Leave. And that's actually a fairly good analogy to life, and we're taking it way too seriously. We don't just have one shot at it. We are at this forevermore. Our true nature, our true being is deeply grounded in the formless. The form, the changing of the form, cannot hurt us, no matter what. Now, in our physical experience, on this side of the experience where we're in our physical bodies and, actually working our way through the problems, there's plenty of suffering. We could alleviate that greatly and help one another, soothe one another, bring down the inflammation in one another, and make that way, way more tolerable if we would understand and open our hearts and our minds and link them up and add all this up. So what are these pictures I have just put up? These are cymatic patterns. And cymatics is the study of the relationship between vibration and form. Pioneered by a man named Hans Jenny, he would take a metal plate and sprinkle a granular medium on top of the plate, and then pipe a frequency through the metal plate, and that granular medium would dance its way into coherent patterns. These are also cymatic patterns, and actually upper right and lower left, that's what those granular medium on a metal plate dancing its way and dancing into coherent patterns, that's what that looks like. That's what those patterns look like. Change the frequency and the pattern changes. Increase the frequency and the pattern changes, but it becomes also more complex. It's kind of the same pattern but more and more complexity. And that's actually an explanation of what's going on in our world. Our world is changing. The vibration of it is changing. The frequency of it is changing. And so the pattern on the ground is changing. And depending on what you are clinging to, what you think you are, what you're, say you're you've made your fortune, your family's fortune for the last several generations has been made on making the best damn buggy whips anyone has ever seen. And yet now, in the field around you, the forms are changing, and horses and buggies are no longer, they're not completely not being used, but they're on the way out. Cars are on the rise, and now you're feeling really nervous because the form that you have attached to is changing. What are you going to do about it? Well, what you should do about it is hold on to the vibration is the most important part of this. Put the vibration of things in the center of the aperture of your focus. Know that vibration is primary. Lock into what feels right and sort of close your eyes to what it looks like, because it doesn't matter what it looks like. It matters what it feels like. You remember that there's that thing that guy wrote. You'd think as a student of the Holocaust I have the spirit of this story right there in my heart, but the name of the guy, I can't remember, the one who talked about what it was like living in Nazi Germany after the Nazis had taken over, and you look around and all the forms still looked the same. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt the same. The spirit had changed. And that's what we have to keep our eyes locked on, the spirit, and allow the form around us to change as it will. And who cares what it changes to, as long as the spirit stays. The spirit is the one that you want to, the spirit of loving kindness, the spirit of cooperation, the spirit of we're all in this together, the spirit of cooperative, collaborative, cohabitation, that synchronistic, win-win, I don't know, all of that spirit. That's the spirit you keep your eye on. And let the forms fall into place in alignment with the spirit that you have determined is what your primary focus is. And it doesn't have to be all woogity woo-woo. You don't have to be... I'm actually not a particularly religious person. I'm not a particularly sacred person. But I recognize these frequencies, and I'm understanding what they're doing in the churches. Where they get it right is in the spirit. Where sometimes they get it wrong is when the physical mind is explaining how it goes. They may be off. Your physical mind needs to be in alignment with what your vibrational mind knows to be true. Don't let those two deviate. How do you do that? Well, pay attention to how you feel. Pay attention to how your thoughts feel. And when you pick up a thought and it doesn't feel right, just set it back down. You don't have to think a thought just because you have determined that it's, I'm air quoting, true. Just because you think it's true doesn't mean you have to think it. Now, if it's a truth, then if you are evaluating the wholeness of all things, then it has to go in there, whether it's positive or negative or good or bad or whether you like it or not. But you don't always have to think about every aspect of the truth. And that's where your discernment of thought comes in. You know, what kinds of thoughts you decide to entertain. And I believe the object of this exercise is to get a positive momentum going so that you can let natural forces start impulsing you your way so that you don't have to think your way through everything all the time. The problem is everybody's sitting in a position where they're like, well, I need to think about this, and what does my thinking mind tell me that I need to, because my impulses are kind of flat. I've flattened my impulses because I think good, I think positive, and then I think negative. And I like it, I don't like it. This would be good, but then this is dangerous. And I like this thing over here, but nobody ever does that, so I don't really know how I could do that. And so you just keep going back and forth, a positive thought, then a negative one, and a positive one, and a negative one. And it appears that you're being very objective and very logical. And in a sense, you are. And to a point, this has served you to keep you sort of in a holding pattern until you can really get to the place where you understand how these energies move so that you can then start your own momentum. So once you've decided, okay, I've done enough of this yes knowing, this positive, negative, this back and forth, holding myself in a neutral path. Now I realize that what the object of my exercise is what I want to do is I want to get a positive momentum going somewhere in some direction so that I can start flowing on an impulse instead of me always having to ask my physical brain what it is I want to do. I want to just feel it. I want to feel an impulse to get up and move, and I want to get up and move, and I want that impulse to be correct when I do it. I want it to be life-sustaining and life-affirming, and I want it to be dancing with others, and I want to be that sort of thing. I don't want to always be thinking about it with my physical brain, because my physical brain isn't smart enough. There is so much to know. My physical brain can't lead the way. My physical brain is capable of understanding these things once my vibrational brain explains it. But my physical brain is not the one who's the genius. It's the other one that's the genius. That's the one that knows everything. And that's the one that can give my physical brain vibrational downloads. And then my physical brain can take those vibrational downloads and translate them into thoughts. And now I'm a genius too. But I didn't let my physical brain lead the way because my physical brain isn't the one that knows. So I see that I have made it past an hour and a half. Let's see, very soon I'm going to have to call my house phone and remind my husband to wake up because he's going to go play golf this morning. I absolutely sanction all recreational activity. All the things that human beings do of their own impulsive, inspired volition are our best activities. That's why the things we do for joyful entertainment are actually some of the most powerful actions that we do. Some of the most powerful actions that we do in service of the most important physical things we do. Now, I'm going to explain that. So last century, we ran amok terribly, terribly. And we did a shocking and horrifying thing. to the tune of millions and millions of us involved on both sides of this equation all over the place. And you can't say, oh, just Nazis did it, or just Germans did it, or just Italians did it, or just Russians did it, or whatever. Human beings did it, which meant we did it. We did it. At this point in the game, I mean, it was a world war. It was so much universal participation that it's very, very difficult to claim that we didn't have anything to do with the bad side of that. So since then, now we were in a different place then than we are now. The place that we were in then, we were much more constricted in our ability to communicate with ourselves, amongst ourselves. We had a couple of main arteries of communication, you know, the newspapers, a little radio. That's about all we had. We didn't have much radio for World War One, and then we started to have. Then we had radio for World War Two. Didn't have television yet. We didn't have television until like Vietnam, and now we have television, but we don't broadcast the war anymore because our government recognized right away that it took all of our appetite for the war out of us when they broadcast the truth about what was going on. And now there's just so much information, it's just hard to focus any particular place. But what I was going to say about that is what a world war actually was us collectively, generally speaking, buying into an us and them paradigm, deciding that we are us and you are them and you are the enemy, and then focusing negative emotions, fear, anger, revenge, all of those kinds of emotions, on that otherness and acting. That's what a world war was. And it was general participation all over the world. That's what a world war was. Now, the reason I do not believe that we will ever have another world war in that way is because I don't think you're ever going to get the whole world population ever again believing that that is a productive, good idea to do that. And you're going to have to wait for just 1 second. Pardon me while I pause for just a moment. All right, I'm so sorry. I'm going to wind this up pretty soon. I'm past an hour and 42 minutes. I know I have all the way to 2 hours, but I may not take all that time. I may go out and help my husband get something for breakfast before he goes off to play golf. Anyway, who am I? Who am I? Where are we going? I want to be part of a humanity that makes it to the 22nd century and not gasping its last breath. I have another slide here. I haven't shown this one for a few days. This one, I pulled this out of a Deepak Chopra book, actually, the Book of Secrets. I really like this book. It spoke to me for a long time. Talked about unity consciousness, talked about evil is not your enemy, talked about, so in here he's got the 5 kleshas. He pulls this from Buddhist philosophy. They are considered to be the root causes of all suffering, come from us not knowing what's real, not knowing how we are configured, and fearing death because we don't understand that truly, and you don't even have to go to church and like get all sacred to know this. You are your eternal, vibrational, energetic aspect, this continuum of you. is who you are forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. You don't just have one shot at this. You are at this. We are all at this Project Life forever. Forever. We are all about the evolution of everything. And we are all in this together. And I truly, truly, truly believe that. And that when we understand who we are as a species, as a biotechnology, as a powerful creator, which, by the way, I'm getting ready to, I can feel myself winding up, and I also realize I didn't finish the laws of creation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Step 1, life causes you to ask. Step 2, source answers. Vibrationally, it's a done deal. There's that vibration, and it is what you asked for. In spirit. Now you go find that spirit, emanate that spirit, and follow it and its impulses. It will lead you to the physical manifestation that matches the spirit that you have. Anyway, so step 1, you ask. Step 2, source answers. Step 3, you've got to get into a state of allowing it to come to you. Drop your resistance. Allow it, flow into it. Anyway, step 4, you get good at step 3. Step 5, you're back in step 1, and you're back in negative emotion, and you aren't mad because you know exactly how you are designed, and you go, oh, I know what this is. I know what this sensation of negative emotion is telling me about the veracity of the thought train I am on. Isn't that interesting? So anyway, there's a lot to think about, isn't there? Who am I? Who am I? Where are we going? Where did we come from? All of that. So until tomorrow, when I will take yet another run at this whole thing, and hopefully within the next few weeks and months we can get more and more people into this space, joining this conversation. At some point I actually have the capability. I could do live shows, and I could get people to call in and ask me questions. Maybe my fan could call in and ask me some question, some burning question that he or she might have. Or add his or her own thoughts to this. I know you have thoughts. I know you have wonderful thoughts that will add to this conversation. And someday I will have the capability of asking you into the space, and we can all talk about this together. But until then, and until tomorrow, do your best. Be as happy as you can. Know that you are blessed. You are, just because you're here, that means that you are special. Just know that. And until tomorrow, as always, boy, do I bid you peace and wish you well. Because there is only one of us here. And when we all do better. So I wish you better. And until tomorrow, please, please, may the source utterly and completely be with you. Amen.